We're just trying to resolve this technical issue a minute.
Y'all, this burrito. Mm.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes. Yes.
Josh is just reloading a minute. Shouldn't be a couple of minutes, just rebooting his machine, and then we'll get started on. And also, if you didn't get the link from last week, there's a place to questions. It's app.sli.do/event, and it's XBIKWHNB. I'll put that in chat so you can see it. Or you can click on the little spinny question mark over by the chairs on the stage there as well, which will bring up a UI.
Hey, can everyone hear me?
Yay, Josh!
Hey, sorry about that. My
No,
my computer just
no, we can't
totally
hear you.
yeah, just totally gave up on me there. I'm still waiting for everybody to load in here, but
I'm glad you're working. I was running out of things to say.
well, remind me not to have you open for me if you're just running out of stuff after only 15 minutes.
Okay. Well,
that's fine. I don't want that job anyway.
I've been chatting for the last hour, so
I understand. Yeah. So, are we live right now?
I
Are we
think
streaming?
Paul said yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. So for people on live stream or whatever, I apologize if it's been a late start here, but my computer is on the fritz. I'm in the process of building a new one this week. My current one is 10 years old at this point. It's an original first generation i7 from 2010, and it's taken me as far as it can take me. And so I've been having the oh so much joy of trying to find parts in stock during COVID-19, which has been very interesting. I'd have at least one eBay purchase refunded due to being a scam. So that's fun. But the last part's coming in on Friday, so hopefully I'll be able to put together a new machine over the weekend. So on to business here. We're going to try and use the Slido question thing again, so that anybody watching from Twitch or YouTube can also enter questions and vote on questions and participate in the process, even if they can't log in. So there's a little rotating question mark up at the front that you can click on, and it'll bring up a panel where you can enter questions that you particularly care about. If you're on the web, go to sli.do and enter the event code 97421, and take you right into the Science Tower where you can upvote questions. What machine are we sending around? Loon. You want my old computer? I don't think you want my old computer. It started out as a 975 Extreme Edition with 4 cores back in 2010, where it was really incredible, top of the line. And over the years, I've swapped out the processor for a 6-core of the same make, same vintage, I guess, and maxed it out at 24 gigabytes of RAM. gotten some new video cards and some SSDs over the year to keep it over the years to keep it going. But it's just the beating heart is 10 years old now, and it's time for it to have a rest. That's I think that makes it definitely retirement age for a piece of technology. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's like it's something I've been struggling with. Is like something that uh, it's still a machine that can even like some mini modern games still pretty well. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it after I build a new one. I have a Ryzen 9 3900X 12 core that I'm putting together with 64 gigabytes of RAM and a new NVIDIA 2070 Super in it. So I'm pretty excited about that. I've got most of the parts sitting in the office floor.
You managed to get your hands.
What's that? You cut out there.
You managed to get your hands on a 2070 Super. You were lucky.
Yeah, that took some doing. I went through several video cards. The one I ended up with was a guy who bought it and tried to cram it into his ITX case, and it just would not fit because ITX form factor cases are very small. And so he ended up replacing it with a smaller form factor card. And so I bought his unused 2070 Super that wouldn't fit off of his case off of him. So that's supposed to be here on Friday. I guess a good lesson there is measure twice, cut once. He forgot that rule. So we have a question that's first questions come in. Everybody else, please throw questions into into the Slido thing there. Because if there's a question mark that you can click at the front of the assembly here, if you're in world, that you can it'll just pop right up on your screen. You can get your questions. Oh, I can do you one better. I've got a 280 millimeter radiator sitting on my floor right now, waiting to go in. I got a very large case, the Corsair 680X. It'll quite easily accommodate a radiator. Both the video card and the CPU have water cooled radiators. Yeah, my radiator's bigger than yours. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and tackle a couple of these questions here. Like I said, please throw questions in there, and we'll just get to them as they come in here. Update from Anonymous. An update on the teleport event from the community tab, please. Yeah, when you're entering questions, you can actually enter your name if you want to there, so we know who's actually asking the question for follow up. But if you don't want to, the question still makes it. So teleporting to events from the community tab.
That was me, Josh. It was Sidearm. I fixed my profile. I won't be anonymous anymore.
Okay, well, even if you don't have a profile, even if you don't want to log in, you can still. There's a place where you can enter the question and then enter a name to go along with the question. So
there's people asking questions on a different page than what you mentioned, so I pasted it from the other page to the one you're actually looking at.
That might be my fault. I might have posted last week's link.
Last week's. Let me check over on that. I was gonna say that event should be turned off. I'd be surprised if it's still allowing questions.
No, there is actually questions going on there. Sorry, that was my fault.
Interesting. Okay. I'll have to make sure that I manually turn that event off. It was supposed to end automatically on the 21st.
I can still see questions there.
Yeah, I can see the questions coming in also on the other one. So
yeah, sorry, my fault.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, if it lets us keep reusing the same one over and over every week, maybe we should just do that. But I don't know why they have an end date in here if it doesn't end. That's a little silly. Well, I'll sort that out afterwards, one way or the other. But yeah, the new event code is 97421.
Yeah, I'll update that on Discord as well.
Yeah, and here is the I'll drop the current link in the chat. Also, this is the link that opens when you click on the thing in World as well. Okay, so if any more show up on there, let me know. We'll copy them over. So back to the questions. Sorry, guys, we're getting a really late start here. Updating to teleporting to event from the community tab. It's a little bit complicated. The main thing is there. That tab currently pulls in events off of Google Calendar. It just imports Google Calendar and imports the pictures and everything from there, and just shows you a front end for our Google Events calendar on that tab. We actually have a proper event system that we're replacing it with. So it's not just clicking the teleport. The reason that doesn't work, we mentioned last couple weeks, is in order for that teleport to event to work, a region that the event is in currently has to be featured. It has to be showing up on the featured tab, or it won't be available to the events either. So it's just that was kind of meant to be an interim way, and so we're going to take that whole thing out and replace it with our own custom built event system that's hooked directly into our database and stuff. So it won't matter where those regions are, whether they're featured or not, and we'll have a custom way to enter events and stuff and events out there and published. So yeah, in the short term, that button still doesn't work for some regions. Questions of this, probably what I'll do is just feature this region, because why not? And then it'll at least work for most of the events on there. And if there's any other events that need to have their region featured, we'll probably just do that in the short term. And then we're just going to replace the entire event system. Well, that question's broad. I'll come back to that one. This one is Sidearm says, or I guess Inquisitive Loon asks, on the map, can you please add a way to click on it to teleport elsewhere? Do you mean the mini map? Do you want like a way you can click on the mini map to teleport? Is that, I don't know if we'll just allow broad teleport anywhere. We might. Yeah, the mini map on the top right hand side of the screen. Yeah, I mean, I saw somebody mention it would be nice to have a larger version of that. We could probably make it customizable, like have pick one of 3 different sizes or something relatively easily. But as far as like just clicking on it to teleport someplace, possible, I suppose. But then we're taking that away from the creators who designed the region, which we would need to have. We would need to have a way for region creators to disable that ability. So it's multiple angles there, because if you're in a region which is an actual game, it would be cheating to just let you teleport around wherever you wanted to go. So we would have to give game creators the ability to say, no, we don't want to allow that in this region. You might be on like some kind of guided experience. You're meant to see a region through a particular path, or if it's like a puzzle region or something, might be intended like you have to open up access to other areas, and just letting you arbitrarily move around it would ruin a lot of experiences. So I wouldn't want to add that without having the ability to also let the region create that off. That's definitely something we could do. I don't know of any current plans to do that in the works, but I can put a note down on it, and we can talk about it. Speaking of which, all my notes on my computer have disappeared when I rebooted my computer. Luckily, they're all saved. New sticky notes. Okay. Yeah, I saw Gabby talking about press M to bring up a larger map screen. Yeah, that would be nice to have as well. We obviously wouldn't be able to, it would just be a larger map of the region you're in. Like, it wouldn't be showing other regions on there because they're not connected. But I don't see why we couldn't have an option to bring up a larger floatable version of the of the mini map essentially. That actually be kind of a cool look because basically all that is that's just a Unity camera looking down on the scene on high. So we just have to adjust the size and scope of that camera. Probably something that would be you probably toss it into like the explore panel as tab in there, like show me the map of the region. But I suppose it could be a separate one. I will bring it up, and it would not probably be a difficult thing to do. So we'll discuss it internally and see where it makes sense to put that. Yeah, in bigger regions it would be nice, especially if on the large version it could show more details. That'd be really cool. Like you could see, icons for where people are on the map or something like that. The map already shows things like landmarks in the region and things like that. So it'd be cool if that's something that creators can kind of already do. Is if there's something important in the region and you want people to be able to jump to it, just drop a landmark there. Like every region has to have at least one landmark in it that's set to the spawn point, and that indicates where people arrive in the region. But there's nothing that says you can't have as many landmarks as you want to. Only one should be a spawn point, but beyond that, you can just add landmarks all over the place. Well, if you place more than one landmark, what happens? They show up on the map for one thing. I don't know if it's still in here. Isn't we back after we revamped our UI, but we had a thing where you could pull up and see a list of the landmarks in the region, and you could pick which one you wanted to go to as like a teleport panel. If that's not currently accessible someplace, we could turn that back on. And that's one of those things like I was talking about earlier. Like that gives creators of the region control over how people move around their region. If they want to let you jump around to important landmarks, they can just drop new landmarks there, rather than just giving arbitrary teleportation. Because if we just give arbitrary teleportation, and you click on the map, you might end up inside of a building or a wall or something. It's not necessarily a great experience because what am I landing on, a tree? Whereas if we let people just put down landmarks and say, okay, yeah, this is a landmark, and I want people to be able to come straight here. If you're got a club, you may want people to have have landmarks to the dance hall and the private rooms or whatever. Yeah, those landmarks. I highly encourage people to put more landmarks in their scene. And I will look into that teleport panel. Like I said, we used to have one. I'm pretty sure we did a whole UI revamp last year, and I think there might be still a few things that need to get put back into that revamp. Yeah, landmarks in the scene. Like I said, when you drop a landmark, there's a checkbox that says this is a spawn point. Just make sure you only have one that's a spawn point, and that's where people arrive, and then the rest, wherever you want to. There was actually a bug in the editor pack last year where if you put multiple landmarks out and you had them all marked as spawn points, and you click the play button, if there was 10 landmarks all marked as spawn points, it would spawn 10 copies of your avatar into the editor with 10 cameras and 10 everything, just all all multiples of everything. It was like it was trying to play the scene 10 times at once, and it was quite an interesting. That's not currently happening in the current editor, but still, one spawn point is all you need. Let's see, more questions coming in. Access to any region as an option on the login page before you choose. Would rather not land in the welcome center. Yeah, absolutely, Mimi. That is something that I would like as well. Is to be able to type in and arrive at an arbitrary region, because there's so many times where like it gives you 3 options: welcome center, home, and last location, and sometimes those are just not where I want to be. I don't want to be at any of those, and so I have to log in, load one region, and teleport to another one. Something else that we internally here really want is multiple login credentials, the ability for it to remember multiple accounts and passwords instead of just the most. Because internally, a lot of us jump around between different accounts constantly, and it can be a real chore retyping and re-entering the password constantly. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat here. Keep a handy water bottle. Okay. Let's see. So yeah, definitely something we want to do. Again, that's something we may allow. Like if we probably wouldn't make it at a region level, but it's probably something we would have access controls for at the grid level. If if somebody on a specific who owns a specific separate grid decided, no, I always want people to come in through the welcome center, that's their prerogative. We would probably have that as an option they could turn off. But for the main grid, yeah, I think it would be great to have that option where you can just say other and type in a region name, and off you go to that region. So let's see. Anonymous asks, is there an option to not notify friends when you log in? I don't think so currently, but I understand the desire to have that. Having some kind of privacy control, which is pretty standard on especially like instant message applications and stuff, is something we could definitely implement. I don't think that I personally haven't been involved in any discussions around that, but I know that it's something that comes up. So it comes up on every virtual world I've ever been on as a request. So yeah, let me put it on the list, and I will start a conversation about that. Being able to set yourself invisible. So ideally, that'd be something you could set from the login screen. Is login as invisible or login as visible, something like that in incognito mode. Yeah. So let me let me start that conversation internally. I can't think of a reason off the top of my head that we would necessarily want to not implement that, but let me get rest of management's takes on it, and we'll update everybody on that. Like I said, that is a pretty standard feature for instant message applications and anything. Is to be able to control the visibility of your online presence. Like even Steam allows that. For like when you're logging in, it's like I don't want people to know what I'm doing right now. So yeah, make a note of that. There's a very broad question here at the top. I've been hitting specific questions here, but I think it's Alicia asks, can we get an update on overall progress? How's everything going? Well, that's pretty broad. I'll see if I can hit on a couple of things. There's a new viewer on staging right now, which tentatively looks good. So may get promoted to preview very soon. Yeah, yeah, it is very broad. It's we had to make a large fundamental change by the viewer. Our viewers were previously running on the .NET 3.5 framework, which is what like Unity 17 and stuff was using. But for compatibility and being able to support newer features and being able to support newer versions of Unity better, especially some 2018 features and even 2019 features, we need switch over to .NET 4.0. And so we did that, and some unexpected stuff broke. Stuff that should not have broke that we didn't anticipate, like Microsoft apparently changed the way their XML parser works between 5 and 4.0. So there were some weird issues where information coming from the server or other files and things that were in the XML format stopped being parsed correctly. So that was a fun one to track down. And there was a bunch of other little stuff that as a result of changing basically the engine underneath that runs the the viewer. There was a bunch of stuff that had to be go around, clean up, move things around, change over to newer, that kind of thing. It was a little bit of a process, but it had to be done to. So that's fun. me myself personally, my Unity absolutely screwed itself over on Monday. Our main project viewer on my machine, I was running a big process in Unity, and my computer had a blue screen of death, which is one of the reasons I'm eager to replace it. And so that Unity project just never recovered. So I'm in the process of I have to delete it and pull a fresh copy off of our servers and rebuild the project on my machine to get more work done on there. There's a bunch of other stuff that's going on as far as like the camera controls, the ones you specifically mentioned. That's still being updated. The mainland is essentially finished. It's not going to come out until we get the 2018 viewer out there, though. Once 2018 viewer is out there, we will be looking to enable some of those features that are sitting there. Right now, we're trying to keep the number of integration issues with the 2018 viewer down to a manageable size, and then once we've got the core integration finished, we'll start flipping these things on one at a time and figuring out, does this integrate properly? Does it break anything? Can we out in a viewer release? There's a couple things that have to go on there for the mainland. It's not just the mainland. Of course, there's the terrain system, being able to terraform and define where the water is and change land textures and that kind of thing. But there's also other broader issues around that, like we have a brand new room editor window that's coming along with that, kind of an advanced placement tool that will allow you to quickly and easily place things around, intended largely for landscaping. Like if you're building a region that's a regular region like the assembly here, it's pretty manageable size. You can place a tree, the seats, rocks, and whatever you need, kind of landscape it yourself relatively quickly. If you're building a large continent, it would just be an absolutely unseemly task to try and landscape the entire thing. So part of what comes along with that mainland is not just the mainland itself, the core technology, but the ability to utilize it in a reasonable fashion. Rather than just give it to you like, hey, here's 400 acres of land, and you're like, okay, well, it's going to take me 2 weeks on it. We want something a little bit more functional than that. So that's part of it. That is actually in the room editor. It's currently turned off. Again, integration. We want to make sure that everything's integrated properly with what we have before we start adding new features, but it is in there, and it does work. That's going to come with some other such as the ability when you sell a region, add furniture in that region, sell like a prepackaged thing, but it's still treated by your region, whatever, can move it around and and still treat those furniture items as normal furniture items, but you can't make a bundle deal out of it. There's a bunch of other little stuff in there. Is it possible, from Artemis, is it possible to use a cutscene to cover the loading page of a new region? It is to an extent. I actually do that on another project. I mean, there's gonna be a loading screen, at least for a little bit, because when you're transitioning from one region to another, part of that is it unloads the first region, and then it has to load the second region, and that region's second loading may include like going and downloading it if you've never been there before. So it may have to go and actually fetch it off the server. Obviously, at that point, it's not running any of your content because your old one's unloaded and not loaded yet because it's still downloading. Once it's downloaded and starts running, you can pop up like a canvas that has a higher priority specified on it than the than our default user interface canvas, and so it will cover ours with your own canvas. But again, that requires that your region, at least begin to load, and that canvas element loads, and then it can cover ours with whatever you want to. We do that for there's another project we've been working on that does exactly that. Like it starts to load, and then a canvas in the region comes up and covers the whole screen, has some voiceover and text and logos and stuff on it, and then when it's ready, a button lights up on it. You can click that to dismiss that canvas, get back to the main user interface and whatever's going on underneath it. So you can do that to an extent. Like I said, there will always be at least a little bit of a loading screen in there because it has to actually get your region started before your content can. But in theory, like we're looking to the future, just kind of theory crafting here. I'm not promising anything. It would be possible for us to specify, this region, when you go to load it, there's this other region you should load first. And so you could have like a micro region that it downloads and loads and it uses as the loading screen while it downloads the bigger one and loads it. That is something we would do. Plans for it. If there were a lot of demand for something like that, it probably wouldn't be terribly difficult to implement. It would just be a matter of priorities. Again, that's just entirely spitballing some ideas out there. No plans on that currently. Let's see, other questions have come in here. Also from Artemis, is there a way to move regions against other regions so that there's a seamless crossing instead of using teleports? Which apparently was the part one of the question I just answered. But really kind of two separate questions. No, not currently. Probably what we would say there is, there's a couple of things you can do. One is, should those regions actually be separate? Like, is there a region they're separate? If you want people to seamlessly walk from one place to another, why not just make them the same region? The other one is, another better way to handle that might be something like the mainland system we're working on, which necessarily includes content streaming, because if you've got a continent of content, which is a bit of a tongue twister, you don't want all of that to load at once because it would just be overwhelming. No machine could handle that, really. So part of that is as you move around, unloading and content that's too far away and loading new content in that's near you. So something like that might make more sense, where if you have a region with streaming enabled, whereas just as you move around, if you move to another area, it streams that area and streams out the old area. But again, my question would be, why do you want to abut two regions in the first place? And there might be a better.
She's answered that in chat. Scroll up in chat.
Let me have a look here. It's a seamless theme with two different developers and uploading ability from two different computers. Okay, so you've got two people who are co-working on a project. Internally when we co-work on a project, we toss it up on a private repository on GitHub, and then it synchronizes between everybody's computer who's working on that project, and everybody has access to the full project and can make changes and contribute to that. That may or may not work for a situation like what you're talking about. Well, we currently don't have any plans to enable, putting a region up and having it seamlessly jump in that way, like two completely separate regions. There's just a lot of stuff that would have to happen there. Like if they were butt up against each other, you'd have to load both regions simultaneously anyway, because obviously if you're standing on the edge and you walk over that edge into another region, you kind of have to see where you're walking into. You have to see that other region that you're walking into. It would have to be seamless. So Unity does support the ability in general to have multiple scenes loaded and unload and reload entire scenes, but there's a lot of stuff that would have to happen there with handoff, loading that new scene. when do you load it? Do you load it immediately? Do you load it when you try to transition? You load it immediately, then you've got the problem of, okay, well now, to go to this region, I have to load 2 or 3 or 4 regions simultaneously. If it happens at transition, that's not really any better than a teleport, because you still, will have that delay where you walk up to the edge and, it has to load in the new region, unload the old region. That's just a teleport. So does it make sense to not use a teleport for that? I think the bigger point she's raising is, what if 2 friends who are both premium want their 2 regions to be next to each other? Cub asks. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question, but I think I don't see us actually. We don't currently have any plans to enable that support for a variety of reasons. I can bring it up as a discussion to see if how difficult would that be to implement? Is that something we want to pursue? Where is it priority wise? It's one of those things where it's like, what is the benefit of having them side by side, or just have a door or teleport you walk through and you end up in the other region, and vice versa. So
Joshua, this is Sidearm.
Yeah.
I wanted to build on that. This was actually one of the comments from my mini user case study team. They are so used to being able to walk across regions, and it adds a certain feeling of vastness and largeness in space. Obviously, you can do Alaska Mount McKinley or Glacier National Park and get the same effect. But I think Artemis is raising a that sometimes you want to share premium accounts and just cross over to each other's space. So there is a kind of psychological space perception thing that has caught my interest in what you're talking about. And I understand it would be a big effort to try to develop that at this point.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that would go along with that. Like, if you want, like, you've got a basic, starter house region, for example, and if you wanted to connect 2 of those together, what does that even look like? Those regions aren't designed to connect together. So if you connect them side by side, there's no way to get from one to the other anyway, because there's a big, there's now a double row of hedges there that you can't go through. So it would really only work with regions that were specifically designed to do that anyway, and that's something you'd have to very carefully, like, okay, this is how big my terrain is, and it's going to connect to your terrain at these coordinates. I have to make sure everything's offset just properly and positioned just so, and it's not like you would be able to just take any region off the store and connect it to any other region and necessarily have it make any sense or be useful in any way. Even if you, even if you took 2 identical regions and connected them together, it still wouldn't, make any be any real benefit. It'd just be like, yeah, I can see there's a house over there, but I don't have any. It's not really, meaningfully connected to mine in any way. Yeah, that's a separate issue. Sidearm with people want to pool their money and and have more accounts that way. I mean, something that people could do is actually do that. You can say, we've got this account, and we're going to we're gonna all chip in and pay for a higher tier on that account, and then we can all have access to upload stuff to that account and build a shared space on it. There's no reason to you can't do that. But as far as like I said, connecting to unrelated standard regions together, it wouldn't really make any sense to connect most regions together, and it's probably would make more sense to, like I said, focus on like having, we're gonna upload a region that is a large terraformable area, and then I give everybody that I want on it access to build on it, and they can build whatever they want to on that terraform. It's a contiguous region, a weird boundary issue to load across, and trying to match up different regions' terrain and things like that. So that would probably be the better way to go. Is just hey, I've got an account. I made this large area. I'm going to give my friends, build rights on this area, and we're just going to go nuts on this big shared space. Yeah, and I realize that's and that's that feeling of vastness is that's how you achieve that. I think better than having just a patchwork collection of unrelated regions that don't connect up correctly that just happen to be sort of jammed in adjacency to each other. Let's see. Looking for more questions here. Did I miss anything on here? It looks like I've covered the current questions on Slido. So if you've got more questions, please toss them in there, and I'm keeping an eye on that. And hopefully there's none showing up on the old event page. Yeah, that's true. Also, Cub, is there will be the ability to have a community area as part of like the terraformable terrain and stuff, and say here's a parcel, there's a parcel. Rent out these parcels to different people, or you don't have to necessarily charge for the parcel, but you can say this parcel now belongs to you, and this parcel belongs to this other person, and those people have build rights just on those parcels versus the entire region. So there is. I think better options already planned and at this point almost completely implemented than trying to cram regions together. I will still bring it up internally though and kind of get general opinion on it, but I don't see it being something that we prioritize over the other things that we're already working on at the moment. So let's see. I'm watching chat, but it's not my main focus. So if I missed your question, like I said, please throw it into Slido because that actually keeps the questions all separated from the general chatter, and I can pick. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Cindy. That we can build all the cool tech in the world, but activities are important to keep people engaged and staying here and participating. And it's true that scripters in general tend to be a little bit of a scarce commodity, and we try to facilitate non-scripters being able to do some interactive content. We have things like the quest system, which doesn't require any scripting. We've got a bunch of components that can allow you to do a lot without scripting. Things like activators, proximity detectors. It's easy to make things clickable. Then clicking on those things accomplishes something. I was actually planning yesterday for a new component that I want to add to the editor pack to give a lot more power to non-scripters in how their region functions. I think it'll be a really good addition to the tool set that we have. But ultimately at the end of the day, some Lua scripting typically is required for complex interactive stuff. And scripters have always been a bit of a scarce commodity in virtual worlds. And I think that's just, gotta grab a drink here real quick. But yeah, I think that's just reflective of the world in general is, the percent of the population that uses computers and the percent of the population that can tell computers, what to do, can actually program those computers is very different. I mean, almost everybody uses computers at this point, but programmers are still a pretty tiny percentage of those users, and that carries over into virtual worlds and the internet in general. I know this is something that other virtual worlds have struggled with a lot as well. Is you can hire artists, but hiring scripters tends to be difficult because they're in high demand because there's just not that many of them. Inquisitive Loon says coding is boring. That's why there's not that many of them. Well, I beg to differ. I actually find it quite rewarding. But it's not everybody's cup of tea. I understand. Just like not everybody's going to enjoy math, not everybody's going to enjoy coding. And it's just, I guess maybe I'm the odd one out and that I enjoy it because that might explain why they are so rare. You might be right on that. Yeah, document my programs. Why do you think we call it code? Yeah, that's not coding, Gabby. That's debugging, and nobody likes debugging. Something breaks that should be working fine. Yeah, and things can break in exotic and interesting ways, but it's tracking them down can sometimes be quite a feat. That's it's true, obviously not of just Lua, but sometimes when you guys report bugs to us, you're like, hey, this thing doesn't work. We're like, oh, that sounds like an easy fix, and then we start looking at it, and we're like, okay, it's not what I thought it was. It's not the next 5 things I thought it was. It turns out it's this obscure thing over here on a completely different project that this one connects to, and or it's sometimes it's just you can go down a real rabbit hole looking for specific bugs. So sometimes a bug was like, yeah, I can fix that in an hour. Turns out to be, oh, it took me 5 days to fix that or whatever. Yeah, not everyone likes music in clubs. Well, I think everyone likes music, but not necessarily at clubs. Uh, the there definitely needs to be more to do. We want more games. We want more other interactive activities and stuff. And part of that is, um, you know, we can't run all the events on the platform. We realistically the platform needs, you know, creators and stuff and event hosts to step up and say this is an event I want to do and I'm going to do it. And if you need some support from us, then let us know and we can look at it. It's like what do we need to do? Do we need to publicize this? Do we need to do we need to get it in the events tab? Do we need to hook you up with some other creators who can help you build it? We try to be a resource as much as possible, but there's a finite amount of us with a finite amount of time in the day. So we spent all of our time running events. We would never get anything else done. Racing's good. We actually have a revamped version of the racing system that we really need to get into your hands if you haven't already. I'll check on the status of that, but the old racing system was built years ago with a much more limited tool set than what we now currently have available for creators. One of those tools being the ability to run server-side scripts, which we didn't have before. And so we had the original designer of that racing system go back and rebuild the whole thing using our much more updated and comprehensive tool set now than we had 2 or 3 years ago when it was originally built. So we would definitely would like to get that into your hand. If somebody wants to do some kind of racing event or build racing region, get in touch with us. We have ongoing work on the cars, and we have ongoing work on the racing. And those are the kind of tools that we want to, make available so people can use them and run events. It's that racing system actually I think does have a leaderboard. That was one of the new features tested for the system. So
it does not at this time. That will hold. It doesn't hold the scores. Like if somebody logs out, log back in, it's gone.
The scores are not session persistent. Was that the new one or the old one?
The new old one.
The new old one. I don't know.
The new old one.
I don't know which version. I don't know which version that you've been looking at, but a persistent leaderboard is something we specifically requested for the new one. I don't know if that part has been finished yet, or if anybody has tested that part of it. But a persistent leaderboard is something we absolutely want on that. Yeah, that way you can come and just do time track. You're like, this person did this track in 2 minutes and 25 seconds. Can you do it better? And you could be like, hey guys, I'm going to clear the scores this week, and whoever has the best lap record at the end, gets a prize or something. The difficulty with that is, controlling for the vehicles that are used. To be fair, everybody would have to be using the same vehicle or vehicles with the same performance settings. So somebody could show up with some kind of crazy super fast jet car or something, and to be competitive, you then have to race with that same car, and it would just be an arms race as to who could generate the fastest car possible. So really, the only way something like that would work is if you had restricted embedded car spawners in the region. It's like, you can come here, you can race, but you have to use my car. You can't spawn your own. Yeah, car shows would be great. Yeah, I would actually like to see a lot more vehicle stuff in general. I've always enjoyed vehicles in all the virtual worlds that I've been in, and I would like to see a lot more happen with them. I could do a lot more creative stuff with them. I would love to see like people building some like track kits, so people could do crazy loop-de-loops with them and have track design contests or something. There's no reason you couldn't do something like that. There's all kinds of fun stuff you could do with vehicles. We're looking at building a vehicle combat system, which would be fun. So you go all Mad Max on each other. I see some more questions coming in. Let me see what's going. Any way to have more resources to teach people how to Lua script? Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, our Lua scripting system is Lua. So, I mean, if you can go out and there's tons of tutorials and references on the internet for Lua scripting, because it's a standardized language. We didn't invent Lua. It's been in use for 20 years in various places and various ways. So if you want to learn just Lua, then your best start is go find a good tutorial. There's a bunch of like websites devoted to teaching this kind of stuff. Like Coursera probably has one. Yes, Lua is much older than LSL. LSL was invented for Second Life in 2000, I guess. The rumor there was always that their technology officer at the time, I believe his name was Corey, supposedly doodled it out on the back of a napkin at a restaurant, literally, and then implemented it over a weekend. And that's supposedly the story with that. But Lua is not a science-based specific language. It's a language that's been around for many years. I looked up the actual date that it debuted at one point, but I forget off the top of my head. But it's been around. Oh yeah, it first appeared in 1993, so it's almost 30 years old at this point. It's been around for a long time. Yeah, Alicia was saying the same thing in chat. It came out in 1993. So yeah, it's way older than LSL. It's 1993. There wasn't really much in the way of virtual worlds at the time at all. Except the text-based ones. If you were into like the moos and the muds and the mushes and stuff, yeah, moos. I was big into the moos back in that time period. But there was like graphical virtual worlds. Were a pipe dream in 1993 because nobody had the hardware or the internet connections to support it. Most people were still on dial-up. Oh yeah, Dixie, I bet you and I could reminisce a lot over our old Moo days. Yeah, we do have some sample Lua scripts up on GitHub. We keep talking about putting more up on there. Richie's probably got the link handy somewhere.
Working on doing some more, but it's just time up.
Yeah, can you drop the link for our public GitHub into chat there and share that around? Maybe make sure that's it might be something useful if there's like a scripting channel on the Discord or something. You pin that link to the top of it someplace. Yeah, there you go. GitHub.com/sciencebase. Yeah, that's an easy one to remember. But I think a lot of people just don't think to look for it, don't know that it's there. And there is only a few things up there right now. We should totally put some more stuff up there. If you nag me about it, Richie, then I can dig up some scripts to toss over to you.
Yeah, if you want to throw me some over that, I can put them up. I have got a couple I've been trying to finish off myself that I'm trying to get up there, but it's time and getting pulled away doing other things.
Yeah, I was thinking I'll ask, but I don't see any reason like we couldn't put up like the Unite 2019 sunglasses script, for example. That's a good simple use showcasing the use of persistence and some networking and stuff there.
Yeah, I'll grab you after this and bug you to get the scripts, and I'll put them up.
Yeah, so let's get some more scripts up there. There are some up there now. There's also some examples on the wiki, although not nearly enough. And of course, we do have a class reference. So for all of the API stuff that we specifically have added to Lua, because I mean Lua is Lua, but then we have some some Unity specific functions that we've added in for you to be able to like manipulate texture, move objects around, and things like that. So we do have reference material for all of those API functions that we've added to Lua, but you still got to know basic Lua in order to make any use of them, and that's just a standard language. You can go on the internet, search for Lua tutorial, and it'll tell you all about how to do all the basic logic structures. Lua is an object-oriented language, and it can greatly simplify a lot of your work if you learn how to use it as an object-oriented language. You can just use it straight up as a scripting language, functions, all that kind of stuff. But objects can really make your life easier and give a lot more power to your scripts if you learn how to use them that way. Let's see. I know we're almost 10 after here, but we had a late start, so I'm gonna go a little bit longer here. If anybody wants to hang around for that, there's a couple more questions coming in. Anonymous asks, is there a particular staff person to interact with on user documentation, such as Unity use cases, like stuff we discussed this morning? I don't know what you discussed this morning, but
Okay, that's me again. So we were discussing slider body settings and how to save them, and it turns out, and Gabby apparently knows all about this, that you can make custom body settings, like a really cute nose, and save them and export them, and then bring them back in and put them on the shop, either for free or for sale. The trick is you have to learn Unity. So I'm now willing to learn enough Unity to save body settings. Where could I go find that documentation? And I'll probably go bug Gabby and all that. But to me, that's a use case. Instead of saying learn Unity and learn Lua, it's more like, give me a particular thing you want to do. And,
I'm 100% with you right there. I know for me personally, if I want to learn a new language or a new skill, I can't just sit down and go, I'm going to learn Lua today. Because I have no goals for it. So to motivate myself to actually pick up a new language or something, I always have to have a project in front of me that needs to be accomplished with that new tool set. Otherwise, I'm never going to pick it up, just because it's not interesting. And so I totally get where you're coming from. But as far as those use cases are so highly specific that we can put up general examples. And like, okay, well, Gabby's probably talking about building morphs. We can put up a document on this is how you build morphs. But those are never going to typically start from ground zero. They're going to start with, okay, well, you have to have at least a basic understanding of Unity to understand, what we're talking about here. Because every tutorial can't have, that block at the beginning that's like, okay, let me explain all of Sciencebase in Unity, and then we'll get to this. Like those would be separate things, and you do have to have that foundation.
No, that's cool. I get that. But the idea, and maybe this is already done, but just like you guys just shared with me that I could go to GitHub and pick up some Lua scripts and copy them, especially Jay's, maybe instead of trying to document all possible use cases, we'll just pick a few at a time. Like Gabby is saying, morphs are documented. I don't quite know where to go look to find that, but I'm sure I will. But maybe as we crank out individual use cases and put them somewhere under Sine Wave Entertainment, tutorials page, we're not responsible for the qualities. However, these have been found to be helpful by other people, blah, 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 blah. Then, oh my God, the people that I'm bringing in are just scared to death. They download Unity, they download the editor toolkit, and then they run screaming into the world.
It
No,
is it is a
gigabytes.
larger, yeah, it is a larger, scarier uptake than than building directly in world, and we do want to enable more building directly in world, was something we talked about over the last few weeks as well. But yeah, if other creators want to contribute scripts to the repository, we're happy to take those and upload them as well. We'll be trying to upload some more of our own as examples, which each of those examples, of course, is a use case. Here's an example, like what's up there right now is, hey, do you want to build a radio? This is how you do that. Hey, do you want to have an animation that when it plays on your computer also plays on everybody else's computer, networked? There's an example of how to do that. So like each of those examples is a use case. Obviously, we're never going to be able to cover every possible use case, but every new example we upload, we try to make it a different use case than the ones that are already on there.
We are working on simplifying.
Yeah, we try not to post Lua scripts that are like overly complicated and hard to digest. They tend to be, simple functions, like here's how you do one thing and set that up. Here's how you do a different thing and set that up. Rather than posting scripts like here's a script that does 40 different things. That's just really hard for anyone other than someone who's very experienced with Lua to pick apart somebody else's code on that level. So yeah, we definitely want to. Hello Avatar is a one-line script, literally. Not be very interesting, but maybe we should have it because that's a classic. Richie, get a Hello Avatar script up on there. Space.log, hello Avatar, done. if you want to be,
whoops, I messed that up.
yeah, you totally butchered that one. You left out a quote. That's just not going to do anything. If you want
I put
to be,
2 quotes at the beginning.
Oh, okay, is that 2 single quotes? All right, yeah, you can use single or double quotes. I learned that when I first started Lua, I got into a mess because I learned that Lua also has a third type of quote option called a literal quote, and I think it's like double square brackets. It counts as a
Shut,
quote.
Bez.
Yeah, it's kind of a pain. But you could take that if you're bored. You could take that hello avatar concept and run with it a little bit, like a one-line script. Here's how you print something to the log. Here's a one-line script how you print that same thing to a chat box. Here's a script that just pops up a UI box on your screen that says hello avatar with an OK button on it that closes it. So a few of those maybe would be kind of that classic introduction. If you've got nothing else to do, Richie.
There is actually I can't remember exactly where.
You kind of cut out there.
There is a Hello Avatar demo somewhere on the forums.
Well, if you could find that and then put it on the repo so that all of our examples are in the same place, doesn't hurt it to be in more than one place. And if one already exists, grab it and upload it so that it's all right there. We can just point people to one link. But hey, here's a bunch of examples. Kind of what GitHub's for, anyway.
The good thing about it being client side is you can run that script for everybody that comes into the region, and it's hello, welcome to this region.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if you, like I said, that already exists, please find it and throw it up on GitHub along with the rest of them. Just because that's where everybody starts, right? Hello world. Let's see, did I miss any other questions that are on here? Envisions one say a science-based maker documentation wiki. We actually had the wiki open at one point because we do have a wiki. We have wiki.science.space, and we had it open at one point, but it just people kept making a mess out of it. People who understand how the wiki worked would screw up all the formatting, or people were posting spam on there, and it turned into an unmanageable mess, and so we had to lock it down a bit so that we still have a wiki, but it's only editable by internal people. Yeah, it was a whole big mess. We were constantly fixing the wiki from people messing it up or deliberately posting stuff on there that shouldn't be on there. Maybe even been some bots doing it as well, but it just became like this is just a time sink for us to keep fixing the edits that people do to the wikis. Yeah, Dixie said it took her 4 months at one point to clean out all the spam that got put in there at one point. Yeah, that's actually something we talked about as well. Is maybe opening it up to a certain level of creators, like maybe have a role on there where we can say, okay, we know you know what you're doing, that you know how to use a wiki, and we'll give you access, but at least to some of it to edit. That's something we could do. It's something we can talk about. We have been talking about moving, like we're in the process of moving to more of a knowledge base type focus, but it doesn't mean we can still have the wiki. Maybe once we move to a knowledge base as our primary official thing, maybe we can pick up some more more of a creator. Probably have to have a lot of volunteer moderators on it. That's a question that comes up. It's come up several times, Artemis. The ability to have, instead of paying for a subscription with 3 to 6 regions, then have a subscription instead with like one really large region. There's nothing preventing us from doing that. It's just would be a policy decision, adding a new subscription type on the website that you can sign up for. So I'll bring it up and see how much interest there is internally in offering some of those, having 1 or 2 big regions, smaller regions.
Multi-pose.
Multi-pose. Yeah, I saw definitely not Cub was asking about multi-pose. I have not done any work on multi-pose this week, so no change from last week. Yeah, that's okay. You can sigh on voice. It's fine. So let's see. Can creators just add more megabytes? Currently, there's not a system to just add more megabytes without going up to a new subscription level. So that kind of just goes back to the same question of, can we have more variety in subscription levels so that you can get one that's more tailored to your needs. I'm seeing somebody floating an interesting idea, but I'm not sure what everybody's talking about. So,
Dollar May says hi, by the way. She's on her phone today, which is why she's not saying too much.
Yeah, she's supposed to be back in full action sometime soon. She's been traveling, so she'll be back hanging out with us properly at some point in the near future. Yeah, I agree, Artemis. The subscriptions we have now probably aren't necessarily a great fit. Some people do just want one super large region that they can do what they want with, and then we should. I don't see a reason why we wouldn't want to support something like that. But let me poke the marketing team. That'd be kind of their their department, and see if there's a specific reason that we shouldn't want to do that. Yeah, absolutely, Gabby. We're for landlords, like if you wanted to come in and be like a big landlord with a lot of land and develop it and rent out parcels, that we've talked about a variety of ways of handling that internally. We wouldn't necessarily, have a landlord tier system like what you're talking about. There's a lot of downsides that come with, hey, we've got this guy who, is paying us $7,000, $10,000 a month, whatever it is, to have all this space that they control. And there's some definitely downsides for that, both for us and for them, because they're on the hook for that kind of thing. We have talked about, like, if a big landlord shows up and wants to do something like that, maybe like a rev share model makes more sense, where they pay for land that they've got rented out and get a cut of that instead of them floating all the tier up front or something like that. So there's options there besides just, oh yeah, we have a tier here that's $10,000 a month. That's unwieldy. It's a big entry barrier. We feel like there's some downsides to that. Yeah, maybe we'll offer that as an option. Maybe we won't, but we feel like there's other options that might be better fit there. And that's going to be probably a case-by-case basis on people who want to run land systems of that size. Yeah, small regions is less of an issue. Yeah, but yeah, I can see what if you want to be a small person who has 5 or 10 renters instead of 500, then it makes total sense to have a tier size where you can have 1 2 gigabyte region instead of 3 or 4 500 megabyte region. Yeah, and that's a very good point from Cindy. There is a lot of us come from other virtual worlds, be they Second Life, Active Worlds, whatever, and those have their own models, and those models may work for them. Like in many cases, like I said, they do have significant downsides, but you got to weigh those pros and cons, and what model other worlds have chosen isn't necessarily the model that we want to try and shoehorn into Science Space and make it work in exactly the same way. There may be better options that we haven't explored, and it may be a different set of downsides and different set of pros and cons there, but it's a balance, and we have some flexibility in taking that on a case by case basis as people approach us with project ideas that they want to do. Yeah, the parcel system is definitely something that's coming, and that should be available on a smaller scale, not just obviously it's not going to be just available for people who want to have 500 renters, available on a smaller scale as well. So that parceling system is in there. Just the UI for it's turned off right now because we'll turn that on as part of the mainland rollout system of the terraformer will turn. There's a bunch of little things that go along with that: new placement tools, new landscaping tools, new parceling tools, of course, the terraforming tools themselves, all of that kind of stuff will get rolled out as a big batch feature. Like, hey, here's a bunch of land that you can terraform, and then also that's not useful until we give you these other things that allow you to utilize that in a reasonable way. Yeah, you can parcel after a fashion right now using different floors. A region can have more than one floor put into it. A lot of people just upload their regions without a floor entirely. And so our system, when you do that, auto-generates a default floor for the entire region and actually put multiple floors in, allocate them how you want to. Yeah, for renters, we're planning to allow a system there for renters to pay you in gold. Pay you through the system rather than having to worry about the PayPal and all that kind of stuff. We facilitate store transactions. It would just basically be the same way as like they would just be paying you with gold and handle all of the intricacies of that. You wouldn't have to worry about it. Yeah, we don't want everybody to have to set up their own, merchant payment system for that kind of thing. Like that's our job. That's what we're here for, right? We're supposed to be infrastructure providers. So we definitely want people to be able to pay for their tier with gold rather than PayPal. Yeah, Cub, that's something actually we had a long discussion about over the last couple of weeks. We heard a lot, and we have some changes coming to the way gold transactions between work. So we'll probably have a blog post about those soon going up to explain the changes, handle it, and the reasons behind that. That's one of those things, though, that I would bring back around to Cindy's point a little while ago, which is what other virtual worlds do is not necessarily what we're going to be doing, and there will be reasons for that, and we'll try our best to explain those reasons in a way that makes sense. But I'm not going to go into that just right now. Yeah, Artemis, absolutely. I didn't even know it worked that way myself. When that came up on Discord a couple weeks ago, I got everybody together and we had about how does it work now? Why does it work this way? How should it work? What do we need to do to fix this going forward? Because I agree the system that is currently in place on the viewers doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it doesn't explain how. The way it works right now doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me in the first place, and then the fact that it doesn't explain that, on top of it, leads to a lot of confusing situations with you trying to move send gold back and forth. So, yeah, that's something we're fixing. Yeah, absolutely. That having to, on other virtual worlds like places like Second Life, that having to, okay, I want to build something. That means to even get started, I have to float $300 a month, to even begin to experiment with the platform and figure out whether it's, and then building, and then you're eating that cost while you're building it until you roll it out. There's a lot of downsides to that model. So that's something I think we can do better on. Sorry, I'm just keeping up with chat here, trying to anyway. Yeah, I agree, Cub. Absolutely. There's some wheels that don't need to be reinvented. Sometimes, everybody does something one way because that's a good way to do it. And I absolutely agree. We don't need to be reinventing every wheel. We just also don't want to be following in any ruts. Is basically where I'm going with that. Is sometimes other people's wheels carve ruts in the road, and that's not necessarily what we want to get drawn into. Saidon wants to know if there's a way to ask to return a product and get a refund. For example, someone bought
Yes,
male
there
boots
is.
instead of female boots. Richie, do you want to? We have
You
that
can
system.
just send me a ticket and I can organise that, but you can give me a reason why you want a.
It's probably something. It sounds like Sidearm's looking more for an integrated solution. And that's a problem. Something other virtual worlds have struggled with. Like I purchased a no transfer item. I can't give it back to you. How do I get a refund or replacement on this or something like that? So it's kind of
It
an
was
ongoing
simpler than that. It was simpler than that. They were a gorgeous lavender shade of cowboy boots, and they matched my new suede outfit. And then it turns out they were male boots,
Bought the
and
wrong gender.
I bought the wrong gender.
Yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from. People buy the wrong thing by accident, all the time in real life and on the internet. So, we would have to probably think carefully about having some kind of automated refund system. There's a lot of potential abuse and challenges there. What if you buy something and then the creator cashes out that money and then you ask for a refund, but where does that money come from? That would be something like, okay, well, we have to float that, but then we don't know that we're ever going to get that back from the creator, because what if they never make another sale? There's a lot of administrative overhead with having that sort of automated refund system in place. So I don't know. We'd have to sit down and internally have a long discussion about that. Might be something that's beneficial on the broad picture to have in place, but there would have to be a lot of safeguards and a lot of security checks along the way before we just say, oh yeah, you can refund anything you want to.
At the moment, it's just done by ticket.
Yeah, at the moment, if you need something refunded, you file a support ticket, and Richie takes care of it.
But I feel like it would probably be safe to just assume that all sales are final.
Yeah, in general, sales are final.
Yes.
Yeah, like Richie pointed out earlier, you can submit a ticket for a refund, but you got to have a reason. Like you can't just say, "I want my money back on this." You're gonna be like, "Why? Is it broken? Does it not work?" In this case,
You've got to have a valid reason.
right, exactly. Like in this case, oh, I bought the wrong gender. Okay, that makes sense. But I bought this and it just doesn't work, and the creator, I can't get a hold of the creator. Well, maybe that's something. Maybe we can get a hold of the creator, or maybe there's some other recourse there. But if you've got a problem with an item, you got to have a reason to ask for a refund, or we're going to say no.
I agree with having a good reason for a refund. That makes sense. And I'll file a ticket. Thank you.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it seems simple in retrospect, but it's and technically to implement it, it would be simple. Just to say, oh yeah, I want a refund, undo the sale and give you your money back. But then there's a whole bunch of knock-on effects to that we would have to consider and be like, is this a good idea, even if it's new? You could do what eBay does. If there's a credit card on file, invoice them automatically. Maybe that's might be something we could pursue. And only allow refunds if we have a way to instantaneously recoup, that from the creator, take it back from them. But then, there's all sorts of issues surrounding that. Also, it's just complicated issue. There's international stuff to consider. It's just a big kind of bureaucratic red tape mess more than it is a technical limitation. And we're half an hour past the hour here, so I think we should go ahead and wrap this up. I think I got to all the questions. If not, please bring them to next week, and we'll sort them out there. But we're well over time here, and everybody needs to get back to doing their other tasks for the day. So thank you everyone for showing up, and thank you again to all
That's
for
okay,
handling the
Sidearm.
streaming.
No problem.
Yep. No problem.
I've been chatting a lot today.
Yeah, it seems like it's most of my day these days is talking to people. So this is just part of that. So anyway, thank you everyone for coming. And we'll see everybody next week.
Like I did say at the last meeting, I try my very best to add
You cut out there, honest.
really good feedback. Oh, I'm gonna add those events to calendar. Be some really good. So it's not just thanks to you guys for giving us the feedback.
Yeah, and remind me to get any regions that are on the events calendar but not currently featured. Remind me to let me know what those are aside from the assembly, and we'll get those featured so they do work for the enter button until we switch out the event system. All right, I'm signing off. Thanks, everyone.
Ah. Yeah, Dee Dee said cheerio.